this week's episode of the WrestleWatch podcast. I am Ryan.
And I'm Doug.
Doug, what is WrestleWatch? If you wouldn't mind describing it to the fine folks of the interweb.
Yeah, so as we said, this is the WrestleWatch podcast. We are the only weekly podcast where we discuss free agency, contract negotiations, and the overall landscape of talent and management dynamics in the world of professional wrestling. You could follow us on the WrestleWatch YouTube channel, where we stream the show live every week, or you can find us on your podcast catcher of choice. You can follow us on X, where we post updates, including our meticulously curated WrestleWatch tier list, and on Substack for long-form articles where we analyze the likelihood of talent leaving, joining, and of course jumping between various wrestling promotions, with a special focus on WWE, AEW, New Japan, and Stardom.
Yeah, so it hasn't been the busiest week for us with WrestleWatch. There hasn't been a lot of big news with things, but we're going to review a few things, possibly people, places, things, ideas, maybe even. I don't know. It's a lot of nouns, right?
A lot of nouns. A lot of nouns.
Yeah. I'm pro nouns for the record. Are you pro nouns?
I am pronouns. I prefer proper nouns.
Oh.
I think those are the best kind of nouns.
You're a proper boy. That's good.
We're going to be discussing a lot of proper nouns today, actually.
Oh wow. Well, how about we start with one that is quite proper, I would say, in the at least in the context of nouns. It's the WrestleWatch tier list. It's the most proper of nouns, right?
I think so.
So this, for the people that are watching on our stream right now on the YouTubes, if you're just listening and you can't see this, but we do have visual references available on our Substack and on our Twitter if you want to follow along when you're listening here. We have the current tier list up on the board. Again, just a reminder, we have changed things slightly from the past. We have added a new tier down at the bottom end for the stay options, which is the likely stay, which is between the old D and F tiers, and we switched the language to being talking about jumper stay rather than having letter tiers that some people found a little bit amorphous, possibly in definition. So we tightened it up a little bit by putting just words that I think are clearly defined. I hope that are clearly defined. How do you feel about that, Doug?
I think they are. I think the idea here is to make it similar to, it is election season, to kind of make it similar to that, where we have, safe, likely, lean, and then toss up in the middle. I think those just make the most sense.
Yeah, it does. I think so. So that is the tier list for the people that are tuning in audibly. Check it out on our visual references that we have on the internet.
And if you're someone who's on audio, we're going to be explaining it to you and reading through everything, so you'll get all the information as well.
And by the way, if you're listening to it right now on audio, why don't you give like a little like or a little comment, a review of us on your podcast app, so that other people can check out the podcast, and that would be grand. We're going to start
Probably
off...
a 5-star review.
5-star. Hey, I understand with Uber that if you don't do a 5-star, it's basically getting the person fired. So think about that for a second before you review.
I'm not asking them to break the Meltzer scale. Just give us 5.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, well, I mean, if we were to go in a time machine back to the 80s, right? And you were to drop Bryan Danielson into the 80s. Here's the hot take question for the day, okay? I think. Here's a thonker. Would Dave in the 80s give Bryan Danielson above a 5-star match, or would he give a Bryan Danielson match 5 stars, and then the rest of the time the scale would be different?
I think that he would have I don't think he would have broken the scale. I think that Wrestle Kingdom 11 match where he broke the scale just broke Dave.
So that's my thought process. Is like if we were to just drop Danielson Ospreay or the Iron Man match with MJF into the late 80s, I'm like trying to think of what the next match that would get a actual 5-star match review would even be. That's a thonker. I mean, I guess it would be possibly Misawa Kobashi, but it could be never. It could be until like 2014 that he would never have given another 5-star. And
It's just gonna happen.
and
Oh.
definitely he would not have given it to a women's match, as we learned this weekend. Uh, but anyway, speaking of things that are right, such as myself in feeling that Chris Statlander and Willow Nightingale should have gotten 5 stars, I want to talk about media rights, the AEW media rights. So this week we just decided to drop them for the tier list because it's gotten a little bit amorphous. As I used that word before, that's the word of the day, I think. As Mark Briscoe would say, it's gotten a little blobby. We don't know where it's going because it's hard to put on the tier list now that it seems that AEW will be going in 2 directions, 2 different places. It sounds like they're going to be staying with WBD. That's being reported by various outlets such as Fightful and Andrew Zarian as well with the Beyond the Mat podcast, which I believe is also on Fightful now. But he also does some stuff with Wrestlers or newsletter and radio. They're all reporting that AEW's media rights with Warner Brothers should be renewed. The contract is almost written up and finalized. They're just waiting for signatures at this point, it sounds like. But a new wrinkle came up this week that's causing us to kind of question putting it on the tier list anymore and possibly tighten up the tier list and make it only talent for the future possibly, is that it seems that Fox might be looking to get an AEW show to replace SmackDown, which all the reports that were coming out about this, that have been investigating all of this, have been pointing out that Fox was kind of losing money on SmackDown. They were paying way too much for the amount of ad revenue that they were receiving for that show, but advertisers were wanting to keep wrestling on the Fox networks. So it seems that that is the direction they're going in and trying to get some sort of AEW program. The rumor is that the Aftershock, or was it Shockwave? Shockwave. I'm doing a festival this tour that I'm on right now in October that's called Aftershock, and it's screwing up my head every single time that we talk about this. So they did a copyright for Shockwave as some sort of program, and almost immediately the dots got connected that this might be a 1-hour program, possibly on a Fox network, possibly FS1. We're gonna follow this still on the podcast, just because it kind of gets into the background radiation a little bit, but it's also something that does directly affect the free agency market. So we're gonna still talk about this as things go on. Doug, what are your thoughts about both just kind of removing it from the tier list, but also what the direction seems to be going for these media rights?
Yeah, I think it should be removed off the tier list for a few reasons. One of them, obviously, that it seems like this deal is done with Warner Brothers Discovery. And also, just the way we had it framed is a little bit tricky to kind of pin down. Like I said, safe stay when I voted, but I'm fine with removing it because, when we put this on the tier list initially, the idea of them splitting up their media rights was not even something most people were even considering. We didn't think it was going to happen. We thought it was still going to be all or nothing with Warner Brothers Discovery, and I don't know why we thought that, because it obviously would make sense that they would maybe want to branch out a little bit, and this does make sense because the idea here is they're getting their content on multiple media platforms, and I don't think this is going to be on Big Fox, on Broadcast Fox. It'll probably be FS1 or maybe Tubi or something like that, which is still a different spot. And it makes sense also in terms of their recording schedule, because I know when you go to Dynamite, right after Dynamite, you'll have the Rampage. When you go to Collision, that one has always been kind of weird, because sometimes you'll get like an ROH taping afterwards, or you'll get an occasional like Battle of the Belts or something, but it's always been a little weird on what they would actually put after Collision in terms of recording. So it makes sense that it's like this would be like maybe the 1-hour show that they would record after Collision, and this could be then aired on, I don't know what day they could, if they're recording Collision still on Saturday, like in theory, this could be something that can go on
Tuesday.
Maybe Tuesday against NXT. That's not impossible.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be
It would
maybe
make the
it'll
most
be
sense because like I don't think see them go. Oh, they could go on Monday and say that they're the only professional wrestling show on TV on Mondays.
But we're working with this. We're also working with this assumption that they're going to continue keeping Collision on Saturdays,
Yeah,
and
that's
I don't need or Rampage on Fridays even.
Well, I think my educated guess of what's going on here is that I believe, and this is a belief, this is just a guess, is that Rampage will be made the third hour of either Dynamite or Collision, and that this program will be essentially replacing Rampage on the TV schedule, so to speak. It does seem that SmackDown is going to be staying on Fridays, but that would have been a decent, slot to move it down into the 8 o'clock hour on Friday, for that matter, for Collision even. But that's my
you could see Rampage just like disappearing and just being a third hour of Dynamite.
My theory is that due to the way that TV ratings work, they would not make it like literally Dynamite is 3 hours. It would be Dynamite is 2 hours, and then Rampage is the third hour. Because when they average out the ratings for reporting, it would take all 3 hours if it was a named one show. Whereas if they were to keep Rampage separate, it would have a separate reporting for ratings. So if people trail off in the third hour of the Dynamite Rampage, it wouldn't affect the ratings of Dynamite proper. And that's something that you see that WWE used to do with Raw back in the 90s, WWF time. They would have Raw is War and then Warzone. And Warzone was technically a different program, and it was that last hour, and it allowed for them to get more fine-tuned data and ratings get posted versus Nitro, which was 3-hour program, and the first hour nobody ever watched. So, it was the Lucha hour, but I liked it, but by ratings nobody watched it, and that kind of helped WWF when they were their spin on the propaganda of their ratings. So that's my thought process, is that if they were to go to 3 hours, they would have it as a third hour of Dynamite, but not have it be actually intrinsically put into Dynamite, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, even to this day, we haven't gotten the Showbuzz Daily reports in a long time since they went down, but those charts, Raw used to split, it used to be 3 separate hours.
Yeah.
And they would record it and put it in as that way. And so I could see them doing that, even if they don't necessarily change the name of the show and just make it 3 hours of Dynamite. And then if they do they could. That's the thing. It's like they could move a lot more around the schedule, since NBA is allegedly not going to be on WBD anymore.
Yeah, but the issue though is that it depends on, what they. Just because of the editing time scale for things, for programming, I don't think that if they're going to film after Shockwave, I did it again, Shockwave after Collision, and then edit it and have it air, it's not going to be next day. It's going to be at least 2 days window, just like Rampage is with Dynamite currently. So if that's the case, I would say that the only option for Collision to move would be to Thursdays, and I personally don't love the idea of 2 days in a row of having your programming on TV for 2 hours. I know that some people watched WWE when SmackDown was on Tuesdays, and let me tell you something, that didn't happen. I don't know what people are talking about, but that never happened. Because I wasn't watching at that time, but even if I was watching, I would not tune into SmackDown on Tuesday night if Raw was on a Monday night and it was 3 hours. There's no way I would tune in for SmackDown on Tuesday night. So I think that if you have Wednesday night's 3 hour block, I don't think people, or even then, if you have Wednesday and it's just 2 hour block and you film either Rampage and you still have Rampage on a second day, then you're going to have a show in between that is live and then show a film show after the show. That it's like the time it just doesn't pan out well, I don't think. So I think that they're kind of the options that we're kind of looking at is if they were to move Collision, it would be because Rampage is live on Wednesdays. I could see them moving it to Friday if SmackDown moves off Friday. I don't see them moving to Thursday if they're going to film. I just don't like it. I mean, they could do it, but I don't like it. But yeah, I think that the Tuesday night Shockwave might be an idea there. If they do Thursday, I could see, of course, them airing Shockwave on Saturdays. But another thing that one of our committee members in the chat brings up is maybe Thursdays and you move Ring of Honor back to after Shockwave. So
I could see that.
So essentially, the idea would be that they would be filming They could be filming Ring of Honor and Shockwave as one unit, as a third live event, which is something that we've kind of been discussing for a while now. Is that Ring of Honor doing residency model? You could have a taping of quote unquote AEW Shockwave at those Ring of Honor tapings. You just kind of take whatever are the best matches, essentially, from Ring of Honor, things that are not necessarily connected to Ring of Honor storylines, and you throw them on Shockwave instead.
Yeah, and here's the thing with Ring of Honor. Like, they might have something in this TV deal. We don't know.
Yeah, that's another factor in this, is that it's possible that Shockwave is just the rebrand of Ring of Honor.
Yeah. I mean, my hunch is it's probably not that, but that's very possible.
Yeah.
That Ring of Honor has some other component.
Yeah. So
I think we'll keep an eye on that.
Yeah, I think it's too early to tell what's officially going to happen with all this, and we speculated a lot there. But yeah, thank you to everyone that was thinking about all this for all this time, and now we've just removed it from the tier list. So all your work and your hard work has been greatly appreciated, and now it's been deleted forever. But we're still going to talk about this as time goes on, because I think, as I said, I think it's important for the free agency market to understand, the financial factors that are going into everything.
So I guess the next one we're going to talk about is Beth Phoenix.
Yeah. So on this, if you're watching on YouTube, you're seeing a lovely photo, a family photo perhaps, of the newest replacement Punk, of course, being Adam Copeland, with FTR, and we got Isaiah Cassidy, Brother Zay, and Lee Johnson, and Julia Hart in this photo. Oh wow, wait, who's that? Who's that cool aunt? As somebody put it out as, that's Beth Phoenix there training. Maybe was she training? Was she not training? What's going on there? Nobody knows. What a time to be alive.
I think it's pretty fair to say that she doesn't look like she's wearing it. Well, she might be wearing a training outfit.
Yeah, we don't know. It's the greatest mystery in the world, and it was posted on Dax's Instagram, the greatest follow in the world. Better than the Twitter, the Instagram.
Yep. So, with Beth Phoenix, right now we had her at a lean stay, independent, because she's not signed with WWE, so she's independent. So we said that she was leaning towards staying independent before. So now the question is she going to be? Is this a signal that she's going to jump to AEW and actually do something with Copeland? And when we think about this, she's already part of the theme song. I wouldn't necessarily be shocked at all if she did some type of appearance. But now we're asking, is she going to actually wrestle? Is she going to become part of the company? Mm-hmm. And to me, it's a bit tricky, but I actually went lean jump.
Oh, you went hotter. You went pretty hot on that.
I think that she might do it. I mean, because here's the thing. It's like she's never been one to stop completely. She'll always make these appearances, and she did that little run recently in WWE with Edge, where they had that mixed tag thing going. Mm-hmm. I forget what they called that group, but
you think you know me? I don't know. I wasn't watching.
And then the other thing to keep in mind is their kids are older now. Yeah. So they had little kids. I mean, they still have little kids, but they're much older now. So once kids get older, parents are able to have a little bit more flexibility in what they do in their lives. So it could be a thing where she just feels like she's in a place where her life where I can go back and do another little run,
Yeah.
and that wouldn't shock me at all. So because of that, I'm leaning jump, but I'm saying lean jump, which is the lowest tier for jump. So
Mhm.
I'm saying lean jump. That's what I voted.
Okay. Well, I went not that way. I went likely stay.
Okay.
I think that I feel that people are reading a little bit too much into this photo. I think that to me it looks like that she's just hanging out because her husband's there and she's friends with the boys in the back. Down in Asheville probably is where they're training, and I, I could see as our lovely committee member TC points out in the chat. I agree. I can see her doing a few appearances in AEW, but and I agree also with this. I don't see her coming in full time. It just doesn't. I just don't see it happening. I feel like it's a lot of smoke right now about this, and I don't feel like we have a lot of fire. And fire is what I like when I'm trying to go above the toss-up level, I think now. So that's why I was going with a likely stay, personally. You can disagree. You're allowed to.
Well, what did the committee decide?
Let's see what the committee decided. The committee said a toss-up, so they went right between us.
Okay.
They heard us from the past. Our words reverberated so loudly that they went and traveled back in time, and they just said, "You know what? Let's go right in the middle." Very kind.
I think a
of them.
toss-up. I think a toss-up for now is fair.
Yeah.
We'll probably. Here's the thing. It's like I think we'll have a better feeling of this once Copeland actually does come back.
Yes.
And
yeah.
I don't know how soon that is.
Yeah. I
We'll
agree.
see.
Yeah, and it's cool. I mean, in that photo, it's just cool that they're all training, they're all being friends. That's nice. I like when people are friends. That's good. So next up, somebody that wasn't in the photo but was a replacement Punk at one time for FTR. It's Daniel Garcia. This is like the second or third time that we've taken him off the tier list and then thought, oh no, we should put him back on. Oh no. So what's been going on recently with Daniel Garcia, of course, is that he has not signed his contract that's been offered to him by Mr. Tony Khan. They were trying to get it signed a few times now at events, and he has not done it. At All Out, of course, he did lose the match, but then he got his comeuppance over MJF, so it kind of was open-ended of who really won the match, that kind of feeling to it. Or, I mean, who won the match was not open-ended. Daniel Garcia lost it. But who won the battle, the soap opera of it. I guess Daniel Garcia won the soap opera, of it, the story of it. But he has not signed his contract, and a lot of word has been leaking out of the Fed about how they like Daniel Garcia, that they want him to be the face of NXT. One person that I'm getting a lot of noise here. I'm sorry about that. I'm in a live concert venue, so I'm getting a lot of fuzz. I'm sorry about that as I'm talking.
I didn't hear any noise, but you cut out for a second, so maybe
Yeah.
it's because of the noise.
Let me just try to readjust my audio there. We're doing this live this time. As I was saying, there was one scooper, I think we might be doing some internal discussions about our sources and things like that we discuss in the podcast. I'm gonna label him as a scooper, Ibu, or Ibu, or Ibu. He was saying he said something very raunchy about the way that Triple H feels about Daniel Garcia, and that. But then also, it's been also put out there by other outlets that Triple H thinks that Daniel Garcia could be the next great technical wrestler. So it's interesting to see that right after it was said that Daniel Garcia has not signed his contract on multiple occasions, been offered to sign it and has not done so. This contract that allegedly WWE feels is bad for the business and way above what they would be paying to sign him, that now we're getting all these breadcrumbs in the media, people doing little leakies of how much that WWE wants him. So, Doug, what do you think's going on?
I think that what is going on is Daniel Garcia has been talking with both sides. I think he's had an offer from WWE. Maybe he even thought he was going there, but AEW beat that offer, and maybe by a significant amount. And that's why we saw that initial quote by Daniel Garcia. I mean, that quote by the WWE source about the Swerve and Daniel Garcia contract offers being bad for business. And then it's funny because I think he said Triple H apparently thought that he could be the next Roderick Strong, so to speak, which is funny because they didn't really do anything with Roderick Strong in WWE.
Yeah, what was that? The Diamond Mine? Was that his thing?
I mean, yeah, I don't know. So to me, it's a situation where he's probably in a weird situation where he is now has like the better offer from AEW, but he's got these maybe promises of a major push in WWE. So now he's got to choose between the two. But it's weird because you could tell that AEW, at least for a time, really felt pretty confident they were going to keep him. They, as you said, thought it was a big deal that they brought him into Wembley and flew him over there, and then they had this match with MJF where they still kind of protected him, even in his loss, where they still had him kind of go over, and they wanted him to beat MJF clean, but he couldn't sign he didn't sign the contract.
That's the part of it that I feel like that's like too far in depth for me to believe that information would be known. So that's the part where I start to check out of the rumor mill.
You're questioning the Ibu on that one, questioning the backup Hangman.
Yeah, because he doesn't even like Hangman, right? Why is he even named that? That's sus. It's very sus to me.
So, based off of that, I feel like this is a genuine toss-up for me, and I don't know where it's going to end up, so I went toss-up.
So for the moment, I went likely stay just because I don't know what's going on. But I think I voted likely stay, but then as I thought about it after I voted, I thonked on something, and as our committee knows, we thonk a lot here. And I thought about the fact that it's interesting that he was getting this offer from AEW that WWE was saying, it was ludicrous, it's too much, we wouldn't pay it. And he's not signing the offer, right? And he continues.
He's not signing either offer.
He's not signing either offer. Yeah. So he's continuing to hold out. But if he wanted to stay with AEW, he has an offer that is breaking the bank for him, is crazy high, allegedly, supposedly. So my feeling on that is then he is only holding out not to get more money out of AEW. He has the offer from AEW. He knows the direction that he's getting from AEW. I mean, some of our committee members think that he could be a world champion in 3 years. I'm doubtful on that quickness of things, but I could definitely see him being, IC easily, quickly, soon. I could see him having a much more robust run in the Continental Classic this year, next year. I could see him being ROH World Champion easily within the next 3 years. I think that those are things that they've started to set him up for, both with his programs that are going on currently, where he's at the IC level, and with his history with the ROH Pure Championship as well, and the Continental Classic. I think that those are easy things that could happen, or Trios run with FTR. There's so many options and directions for him and championships that he could have over the next 3 years, which is likely the length of the contract, could be 5, who knows. I'm not privy. But the thing is that they've given him a lot of money as an offer, and he has a clear direction of where it's going. So why would he not be signing that contract right now? Well, obviously it's because he wants a better contract from WWE and might want to just sign there. And that's the vibe that I'm getting, is that he's trying to use this contract offer that AEW has to juice up the WWE contract and jump. It sounds like the direction that they want to go. And I know some people are like, well, how can he be the face of NXT? Look at what NXT is. And I'm like, well, they're about to switch to the CW. They brought in a bunch of more experienced talent to try to tide them over, it seems. They're doing all this TNA stuff, but they're bringing like the higher tier TNA folk are coming over to NXT. So again, more experienced talent are coming into NXT from TNA to help bolster their roster right now. So they have kind of an open pathway forward of where they want to take NXT into the future. And if they're telling him, hey, we'll make you the face of NXT, that's kind of a statement of what direction they want to go in. And if you look at the signings of younger stars like Julia or Stephanie Thekla, that shows that same kind of direction that they could be going with NXT. And even before the comments from Ibu, I could feel that he is somebody that Mr. Paul Levesque would probably like as a star. So that's my vibe, is that through some sort of logical deduction, is that he is not signed the AEW deal, the offer, because he's just trying to get more money out of WWE. And if WWE doesn't give him more money, he's going to go with AEW. That's my read on the situation. Because like I know that you always say that 90% of the time it comes down to money. And I think that sometimes that we overvalue the money, or that we have a hard time quantifying into value things that are not monetary. And I think that being told and flaunted as the face of either your third brand or your developmental, depending on how people talk about it, your show that's going to be on network TV, I think that that's something that has a lot of value intrinsic to it, more than other things that have been offered to people before. So that's why I don't feel it's very geeky of him to be holding out. I think that it makes sense for what he's trying to do. I just think that he should take the money that's being offered to him right now and not string along another promotion because you're just trying to, field a better offer from somebody else. Like, I think that that's a little bit questionable.
If we're being honest, I mean, who's the face of NXT right now?
Somebody from TNA.
Isn't it Ethan Page?
I think Joe Hendry's really the face of NXT right now, even if he doesn't have the title.
Okay.
That's the feeling.
I guess that would be my other point, that it's like, I mean, they're essentially, the pitch is, hey, you could be the next Ethan Page. But that's not a great sell to me.
I think that you're thinking about it backwards, is that right now the quote-unquote face of NXT, the world champion, is Ethan Page because that's who they have. So if Daniel Garcia could go, then that's them saying, we don't want Ethan Page to be the face of NXT. We want you to be the face of NXT. I don't see it as like your spot is Ethan Page level. I see it as like, we want you instead of him as the face.
Okay. And like I said, we'll see where this goes, but I have him as a toss-up right now because I just need more info.
And I like our point from our committee member here, TC, saying Garcia is a guy who's been a national TV for years and has gotten pretty over. It makes sense that WWE would want him for the CW launch. And I agree. It seems that they're trying to gas up their CW era, and somewhat unsuccessfully with one of the shows that they're going to be doing live. But we'll get into one of the talent that sounds like they're being keyed up for this first CW show in a little bit here. That it sounds like that they're trying to sign. They will be, I believe that Julia versus Roxanne Perez is going to be for that first CW show. So internally of NXT, they're bringing in talent and debuting talent for the CW era to juice it up. But their second show, I don't know if people heard. First show, Chicago, Allstate Arena, CM Punk's on it, selling well. Makes sense. Second show was being bundled with the Raw at the Nationwide Center in St. Louis. And the ticket sales of the bundle did not even get enough up for NXT Solo that they're just moving it to this venue that's called the Factory. It's about 25 miles outside of St. Louis. It's a nice facility. I've been there on tours before. It's a nice facility. Can't do pyro inside of it, for the record. I know that one firsthand. But it's a pain for people in St. Louis to get out to. And
So it's like the Now Arena of St. Louis.
no,
Only smaller.
no, it's like if the Salt Shed indoors was 25 miles outside of Chicago.
Okay.
It's a concert venue. It's not an arena. And the concert venue has a capacity of 3,300 people for standing for a concert, which means that NXT pretty much at this point has already sold every ticket that they're going to sell for this show. And they're supposed to be hyped up as like their big debut on, CW, 2 live shows. We're going to have CM Punk, we're going to have Randy Orton on the show, and it just is not selling. And this is something that we've noted for a while now, is that NXT Live for their PLEs that they tie into a Raw or SmackDown or another main roster pay-per-view, they are selling tickets only because they're attached to the main roster. They're not selling tickets independently on their own. And this might get to what you were saying about, like, it's like, no offense to Ethan Page, but like it's not a juicy storyline, I don't think, what's going on in NXT. And the person that people want to watch is Joe Hendry in NXT, and he's not even at NXT. So bringing in somebody like Daniel Garcia helps, I think, juice it up. That's my point. Yeah. I'm sorry for the long tangent, but like I think it's important. I think it's important to point out that like NXT is kind of in a precarious situation as they're switching networks, and that they're trying to build for a new era, and they don't know what that new era is going to be necessarily yet. If they're going to continue with the NIL, if they're going to bring in experienced talent like they used to from the Indies, or they're going to try to build stars that are younger that have started off somewhere else, like Julia Stephanie and Daniel Garcia. So that's my vibes. I talked a lot.
Well, I'll say this: I've been watching these NXT tickets in Chicago because it's the big debut.
Yeah.
They got CM Punk. I mean, it's not really selling that great, to be completely honest. And right now, I can get a ticket for $25.
Yeah.
To get in the building, and so that's not. I see what they were maybe trying to do with these first 2 shows is a test the water and see if they could turn it into a touring brand.
Yeah.
And I think they very resoundingly got their answer.
Yeah, I think the answer is no with this current version of NXT. And I think it's been no, not even just with these 2 live shows, but like now for a while with the PLEs. They just don't sell unless they're attached to the main roster.
Yeah, and let's be clear, this is a show. The Chicago one is a show that would attract people who maybe don't necessarily watch NXT. Like
100%.
I'd consider going for $25 to go see Julia for the first time.
Yeah.
So that is something to keep in mind. So I think, now the talk is they're hoping like this NXT premiere gets 1 million viewers on CW, which,
I don't think it's happening.
I have no real frame of reference, but I know it's the biggest stuff on CW is Live Golf, and I don't think it ever even gets anywhere close to that.
Well, the best rated programs on CW are below what NXT is currently averaging on USA.
So, and then that's not even factoring what the demo would be.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Let's get back
that.
Let's get to Danny. So you were saying, how are you feeling about it again?
So I went a full toss-up.
Okay. And I was saying likely jump just because I don't know how to feel. But I feel like as I talked it through, I went likely stay. But as I'm talking through this today, I feel like it's actually a lean jump. Just because I think that he wouldn't be doing what he's doing if he was going to stay, in my view.
I am leaning. If I had to pick a direction, I'd probably go jump.
Yeah,
I agree, but I'm still sticking with toss up, because what I keep thinking about Buddy Matthews.
Yeah,
and how we were so sure on him, and then he ended up getting a better offer, and he said, "Okay, I'll sign."
Yeah.
So it's very possible that that's exactly what's going to happen here.
Although the interesting thing, of course, is that he already has the better offer. So that's why I'm like kind of, I'm trying to be very conservative about the jump capabilities of people, but I think that this is one that I'm kind of leaning towards jump. But
Then at the same time, why isn't he signed? Why isn't he like? Why aren't we getting reports that he's leaving
because he doesn't have the money offer that he wants yet.
from either side?
No, from WWE.
Hmm.
He wants more money from WWE, so he's waiting it out and holding out on AEW because he already knows how much money he's getting from them. So he's holding out on AEW, hoping he gets more money from WWE. If WWE doesn't give him the money, he'll just go back to the offer that he got from AEW, which I think what Tony Khan should do, and I'm not a business mastermind like he might be, is I would tell him to just, call his bluff at this point, because like I wouldn't want to be strung along by this, and you can push Wheeler Yuta instead. I love Daniel Garcia in the ring though. Just to be clear, I think he's a very skilled talent, but I think that at a certain point you have to cut your losses and make sure that you're setting yourself up well for the future. And I don't think the way to do that is to string along a storyline with a will they continue this on a pay-per-view match. So that's my view. The committee went with toss-up, just like you said.
Okay.
Just like I was in between with my two opinions. So we're going to add him back in toss-up. Let's see how long he lasts this time on the tier list. And this is the good transition point is the talent that are being reported to be debuting at the NXT Chicago show. It's Motor City Machine Guns now being reported. First was sent out by PNW, which is we're starting to feel like they're getting some leaks direct from WWE because they're quite accurate with things that are positive about WWE when they're getting out early. So that's kind of our vibe right now, but it's been confirmed by other outlets since then. Remember, PW Insider posted a story first of major outlets saying that Motor City Machine Guns, it seems, have signed with WWE with the intention of working NXT. And I believe that it was Fightful also was supposing that it seems that they might be lining up some sort of coaching work or post in-ring work with WWE with coaching. Did you have any other thoughts to add to that, Doug? It was pretty straightforward, I feel like, what's happening
Yeah,
here.
I mean, and here's the thing. I think since I voted, even some of the PW Insider thing, I think that came out after I voted.
Yeah, it came out after like halfway through us voting, and a lot of people just changed their ballots.
Like I didn't change mine. I already was voting, pretty heavy for them. I had them. Let me double check. I had them at safe jump.
Yeah.
And PW Insider, I trust. I mean, they're very reliable. They're very good. So if they said they were signed, I would consider that signed, and I would vote confirm jump, and I would take them off the tier list, honestly.
Yeah, I went with safe jump afterwards. I actually was a lean jump before all this news broke because I was like, well, it feels like they may, if they didn't show up at SummerSlam, but they didn't show up at All In, and then not at All Out, and then they didn't do. It's like the NXT No Mercy. I was like, are they just not showing up anywhere? Are they just retiring? And it turns out that no. It sounds like they were just like WWE let them finish up their indie bookings, and they're gonna be at Chicago. NXT.
But I mean, and here's the thing: I'm usually pretty careful about going confirm jump. But if we have like if Meltzer came out and said these people have signed, I mean, I'm generally gonna trust that.
Yeah, and my philosophy and what I recommend to people with it is that until they show up on screen or get the graphic, I like keep them on the tier list just in case, because that's kind of what I feel like kind of bit us a little bit with Daniel Garcia there. Was that we took him off when we should have, and I think we both agreed on this. We both were like he should stay on in a safe stay tier.
Yeah, there was no reason to take them off. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's why and especially with Motor City Machine Guns, because there's been they've been flirting up and down between what is now safe and likely jump for a while now, and it seemed like the wind was pointing to them going to AEW for a little bit. That's why I'm conservatively saying leave them on the tier list in a safe jump. Let's see if they show up in Chicago, but they're showing up in Chicago for
Yeah.
NXT.
And that's and we kept them there. That's where they're at. So I guess it worked out.
How do you feel like that? This is what is your assessment of the move for them? They're gonna get a Def Rebel theme song apparently too. So how do you feel about that? How do you feel about them going to NXT? That sounds like are there any NXT dream matches that you want to see them have?
Well, I think historically this has always been an issue of what does Alex Shelley want, because Chris Sabin, like even when Alex Shelley was like quote unquote retired, Chris Sabin was still working. He was working like Best of the Super Juniors and things like that. So as a singles guy, so it's always just been about what Alex Shelley wants. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just that he's another career that he spent a lot of time working on with his physical therapy, and that's something obviously that he was very passionate about. I respect him for that. And what ended up happening was he finally, got what he finally maybe found a spot where he could do both, and that's probably what NXT offered, where he's not going to be traveling as much. If he's just going to be in Florida, which hey, good for him. And because of that, he jumped on it.
Yeah.
And I get that. I think that's fine. And who knows? I could see a situation where maybe AEW just wasn't that incredibly high on them, because knowing where they're at and how old they are at this point, and maybe they just didn't want to throw as much money at them as NXT did. And then also there's the idea that maybe they want to train. They want to train people, and obviously NXT would be a good place to do that.
Yeah.
However, I will say, and I've been saying this forever, that it seems like there's a lot of people who just want to train.
Yeah.
And they can only have so many trainees and so many trainers. I mean, so I don't know. I think that they maybe got the best offer for them, and it may be like financially as well, but I think especially Alex Shelley, he just has a lot of weird, complications going on, because if he really feels passionate about doing that other job, then, which is, once again, it's me largely speculating here, but I think most people seem to imply that that's what's going on.
Yeah.
And he just would rather, find something in a position that allows him to do that. Which is, I'll say this: if we were unsure what NXT was going to be with a touring brand or not, that would certainly make sense in terms of why he was waiting so long.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it seems that they have a direction a little bit more with their tag team division in NXT if they have some stable hands like the Motor City Machine Guns there, and they'll be able to develop new real tag teams. Like it feels like a lot of whenever I tune in for NXT, I only really watch their pay-per-views, their PLEs. And it seems that the tag division is just an afterthought. It's like, oh yeah, Axiom and Nathan Fraser are the tag champs forever. It feels like it's going to be forever, because like they just don't have any other solid tag teams there, honestly. So I think that it would be positive for NXT's young people to get work in with Motor City Machine Guns, but also I think singles, both of them, fantastic. So it'll work well either way.
And let's be honest, the Motor City Machine Guns did work AEW already.
Well, they did one match, yeah.
Right, and there wasn't like a ton of buzz with that either. Like, I mean, there was people who were like, "Oh, I didn't even remember that." Like, there was a lot of people who were saying that. So that to me maybe says like, well, maybe they kind of thought this one isn't necessarily, worth it.
Yeah. Well, we're putting them safe jump for now. Which I'm saying that for now. I think that we'll find out in about 2 weeks, I think it is, when the CW premiere happens. As TC points out, the Lucha Bros, Rascals, which are TNA, and MCMG are a pretty solid foundation for a tag division. Yeah, I guess we're gonna see possibly if Lucha Brothers are indeed going to WWE, and if they're, well, I think that their angle, if I remember correctly, was that they did not want to work NXT.
Yes.
And it sounds like Motor City Machine Guns will be working NXT. So that match might not happen still, which is crazy. Sad.
I mean, once again though, people could go wherever they want, I suppose, right?
Yeah, and I can go to the next slide, which is Sheamus. Sheamus allegedly is working out a contract with the WWE for a re-signing. It's a multi-year deal. No word on how long they're trying to make this contract for. That's the word. What are your feelings about Mr. Sheamus?
Another Mag 7.
Yes, another one possibly falling.
Yeah. So here's the deal with him. I think he's one who knew. Well, it's kind of why I put them on that Magnificent Seven list in the first place. He's probably a guy who knows his value and knows he's valuable to the other company. So he took his time and is playing hardball, and they're putting together a very, I don't want to say complicated, but it's a specific deal, and they're doing the negotiations. He's not just taking whatever they're going to throw at him, and
Yeah.
I respect him for it.
Yeah. I think that it seems like he's solidly going to stay there. It's again, not a lot to go off of other than just that, they're negotiating, which is a step forward for them, because for a while it didn't seem like they were trying to work out a deal. But yeah, if he's happy there, great, good for him.
Yep.
So I think that everybody's kind of in agreement. So where are you kind of going, likely or safe stay then?
So for Sheamus, I have him at safe stay.
I went with I think I said likely stay, because I feel that there's still that chance. There's always a chance with him, I feel like. And it seems that our committee also went with likely stay. It might be some people hoping that maybe he won't actually stay with WWE, but I think it's fairly safe that he's going to stay at WWE at this point.
He's gonna show up with Claudio and try to asphyxiate Bryan Danielson again.
Yeah, I mean, it won't of course, be on YouTube. You won't see that clip, but it will happen. So that's Sheamus for us, and I believe this is the last one for this week. Is Thekla, the star of Stardom, or the hater of Stardom. She's not in Star, she's in hate.
Yeah, don't kill her.
So we had her in lean stay at Stardom. This is kind of, I guess, a vibes-based vote this week on her reconsideration about Thekla. You are the resident Stardom maniac, correct here?
I suppose.
It seems that she's been she's getting a decent push of things. She's not. It seems that she's going to be staying there with the hate faction that was newly created. We haven't gotten any word recently about any further thoughts of her wanting to possibly go to America at some point, since that article that we had from that German publication a few months ago. So personally, I'm feeling like we should just downgrade her one rung on the tier list down to likely stay. It's kind of the same kind of conversation that we've had before about folks like Shelton Benjamin or Dijak or other folks like that, where it's just like the fire, if there was a fire, seems like it's cooling down a little bit. The smoke is a little bit lessened. That's my vibe on it. What's your thoughts, or just vibes, about Thekla?
I did the same thing. I went down to likely stay.
Yeah, and actually that's what our committee went with too. They just went one rung down. Vibe checked it one rung down. I think that's the right call for right now. And if things heat back up with her, we can always move her back up. But it seems that for the moment, it is most likely that she will be staying at Stardom, which gets us to having a fully updated WrestleWatch tier list, the Pro Wrestling Movement probability tier list. If we want to go through and chat about what's on each tier, we can go and alternate if you would like to start with the safe jumps.
Yep, I will. So starting with the safe jumps, we have Hikuleo, Michael Oku, the WWE TNA partnership, and then to the Machine Guns.
Yeah, and I think that after we took off the media rights for AEW, next week I think we might just take off the NXTNA of it all. Try
Mm-hmm.
to refocus a little bit. Likely jump. We have the Lucha Bros and Bobby Lashley, which Lucha Bros, as we just discussed, it's we haven't had a lot of further updates on them since the big buzz of last month. So I'm intrigued to see what's happening and if maybe they're just waiting on probably Phoenix's contract to expire. Yeah, that's the likely jumps.
Mm-hmm. For lean jump, we have Ricky Starks, Zilla Fatu, MVP, and Jordan Grace.
No real thoughts there for me.
Nope.
Toss ups right now are Speedball Mike Bailey, Mustafa Ali, Danhausen, Megan Bain, Alex Windsor, Josh Alexander, Mina Shirakawa, Beth Phoenix, and Daniel Garcia. I just wanted to make one note about Mike Bailey. It's very interesting what happened where he dropped the X Division belt to, was it Trey Wentz, who then held the belt for show for his NXT No Mercy match against Wes Lee. He won the
Zachary
match.
Wentz.
Zachary Wentz, excuse me. And then he dropped the belt right back to Mike Bailey. So it's intriguing to me that it was not even defended. It was not defended in NXT even. They just wanted it for show, I guess. But also that that's how I guess that's what they feel about Mike Bailey right now. I don't know. It was kind of weird situation, but he'll be on the the Maple Leaf Pro show that's coming up, which seems to have a lot of talent sharing and integration with AEW. It's now been confirmed that Athena's match with Giselle Shaw will be for the ROH Women's World Championship, which I guess, hey, Scott D'Amore, get your Carney business going early. Get your nepotism booking early for your gal. That's all joking, of course. Giselle seems to be a very skilled talent, and I'm looking forward to watching that Maple Leaf Pro show a lot.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Next we have Lean Stay. So we have Kevin Owens, Viva Van, Shelton Benjamin, Joe Hendry, Ninja Mac, Shinsuke Nakamura, Dijak, The Hardys, Trevor Lee, and then Mayu Iwatani. And I noticed that there was, I think just recently, some stuff came out. Like I think maybe while we were recording on Mayu.
Oh, what was
At least
that?
there was. Let me find it real quick because it was discussed elsewhere.
Yeah, and I don't think that there's much else on the other folks on
Yeah.
this tier. But hey to Ninja Mac if you're watching, our favorite viewer here.
Okay, so this was just a tweet. It was translated from DeepL. Mayu Iwatani tells Tokyo Sports that she would like to wrestle matches in AEW after her match with her match with Tony Storm. In the article, Mayu Iwatani is looking ahead to AEW appearances after the Tony Storm fight. Mayu says, "If I beat Tony, who will be there? The current champion is Mariah. It's going to be a lot of fun. I don't know what will happen from here. I would like to carve out that path for myself."
That's really interesting.
Yes.
Because, yes, as we know, of course, Tokyo Sport is kayfabe light. They report things as if it is in kayfabe, but they don't just throw out things that are way too kayfabe when they report on wrestling. So that is very spicy. But yeah, I don't know if we had mentioned on the podcast, it came up this week. Tony Storm will be traveling back to Stardom to compete for the IWGP Women's title against Mayu Iwatani. I think that Mayu will probably win the match because I think Azumi is probably getting set up to take that belt off of her. But it is very intriguing that Iwatani is on the up and up about what's going on in AEW. Of course, it's another former Stardom talent is the world champion for AEW now in Mariah May. But also that it sounds like, I don't think that she would just say something like, she could just be saying something like that. But it's like, it's kind of juicy to say something like that when you're already the person that holds the belt, you know?
I'll say this. I do think she could just be saying something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm not putting a ton of stock into it yet, but it is something that I'm at least,
Well,
raising an eyebrow a little bit to.
yeah, well, we have, I guess, the second Forbidden Door season of the year is going to be coming up in December, uh, as
Yeah.
the build to Wrestle Kingdom Dynasty comes up, and Wrestle Dynasty will have Stardom integration, Ring of Honor integration, AEW integration in there. So it's possible that she's starting to set up, and maybe she'll go to America to set up a match for if she still has the IWGP belt for Wrestle Dynasty. I know that Stardom also has a show that last week of December. That's usually where they have it for their annual New Year's Eve season show.
Yep, that's their big one.
Yeah, so it's possible that she I do think, and I agree with people that are saying that it's likely Izumi that's getting set up for her with the belt itself, but I think that it's you don't do a a cross promotion show with Stardom and AEW without having her on the bill, and it would make total sense to have her come to America and do like a short tour before that if they're able to. The big problem, of course, is getting the schedule right with Stardom having their own show that weekend as well. So I think it's more likely, possibly, that AEW talent will go to Stardom that month. But especially because I think that if they still do a Continental Classic season in December, that means that the men will be taking a lot of TV time up. So there'll be plenty of women that will have the opportunity to go over to Japan and work some programs in Stardom during that time. But yeah, that's interesting, and I think that we might be talking about her next week then, in a little bit more detail if more outlets pick up on that conversation as the build for that Toni Storm match continues. Down in the likely tier, we have Sami Zayn now being joined by Sheamus and Thekla.
Yep. So I don't think we have to discuss those anymore. I think we've kind of covered that.
Yeah.
I mean, I have nothing to add on Sammy.
No, he's just a good boy. We like Sammy.
All right. And then the last one is Sari, Utami Hayashishita, Hook, Street Profits, El Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr., Dustin Rhodes, El Hijo de Vikingo, Katsuhiko Nakajima, Shane McMahon, Thunder Rosa, Alex Wolf, Britt Baker, Becky Lynch, Bozilla, Saraya, and Giselle Shaw.
Yeah.
I'll just say this about this last tier. This upcoming week, I'm probably going to nominate a bunch of these to maybe just remove them.
Yeah, there's some of them that have been on here for a little bit. I personally, I think that a lot of them should still stay on, like Dustin Rhodes. We haven't had word that his contract is re-signed, but he's been pushed fairly well. I would still be cautious about removing him, for example, but I could see that as being one of the folks that people will be wanting to consider for next week.
Yeah, I consider Nakajima probably.
Yeah, I think that I think it's time.
Maybe Dr. Wagner Jr. I don't know at this point.
Well, he's one that has said that he is leaving Noah, but it's intriguing. I think that it's too early to tell with him of where if he does end up somewhere that's like a major promotion from our vantage point.
Yeah, and then Alex Wolf is the other one I'm thinking.
Yeah, I would also possibly argue on Thunder Rosa. Because it seems that I don't see any real smoke happening here with her leaving, and she's quite flowery still about AEW in this moment. Been pushed, I would say, fairly well with things. So that's the safe tier. That is the tier list at the moment. Did you have any hot takes you wanted to volley to thonk about here for this week?
I don't have any hot takes this week. I think this is a week without a lot of hot takes.
Okay, I have a hot take.
Okay.
This one's very hot, I think. And it's a take of mine. Excalibur is my least favorite play-by-play announcer in AEW Ring of Honor at the current moment.
There's a lot of people who say that, I noticed. I don't agree, but you're not alone in that. I think it's a hot take just because I think he's very good, but I see why he rubs people the wrong way and doesn't necessarily uh isn't really, not everyone's cup of tea. I get that.
Yeah, it's not that I don't like him. It's just that I enjoy Tony Schiavone and Ian Riccaboni more right now. That's all.
Actually, you know what? I do have a hot take.
Oh,
This is
okay,
one I brought up the other day.
okay.
So, there's a lot of talk with Meltzer bias every now and then.
I've heard of that man. Yeah.
Yeah. And the biases of Dave Meltzer towards AEW or whatever. I would argue that I think Dave Meltzer is probably the least biased major wrestling journalist there is.
I think that is lukewarm.
Okay.
I think that in his journalism, I think that he's fairly even keeled. But I think in his match ratings, I don't want to say he has a bias, but I think that he rates things on different scales, but uses the same number system. And I think that
Okay.
that is detrimental to his star rating system at the moment. Because he'll admit that he has admitted that he considers WWE matches on a different kind of thought process than he does other promotions. And as we've seen with how he rates women's matches, or just doesn't rate them, I think that he has a different scale system in mind for women's matches also. So that's where my thonk pushback is on that take. But I don't know if that was the area in which you were thinking about it in.
No, I mean I was more so just thinking like in terms of his journalism.
Yeah, yeah. In
But
that case,
it can go either way.
I think he's pretty even keeled about his journalism. Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
I guess
then
those are.
I think that's it then for this week, right?
Yep, that's it.
Oh, it's been really fun chatting with you on this Sunday. I'm here in New Hampshire for a show day, so I'm gonna get back to work. What are your plans for the rest of the day, there, Doug?
I started cleaning out my basement yesterday,
Uh-huh.
so I'm probably going to now put new things into the basement.
Mm.
So just a clean weekend, I think.
So you cleaned it out to re. You're not recluttering it though.
No, I'm not recluttering it, but I'm decluttering a lot of the things that I have in the main level of the house that really doesn't need to be in the main level.
Gotcha.
So now I have a space to put it.
Gotcha. Well, I hope that you have a good time with that, and I hope that everybody that was listening in this week had a good time listening. As a reminder, please try to give us a like, a subscribe, a rating on whatever platform you're listening or watching this on. Follow us on our Twitter and Substack, where we do a little bit more in-depth discussions about everything with the tier list, and we post the visual tier list as well for people that are listening to the audio feed. Again, thank you so much for everybody listening. I've been Ryan.
And I'm Doug.
All right, have a great rest of